Hello there, friends and RC family. My name is Alec from High Noon Hobbies, and if you're new to this channel, I very much appreciate you checking it out. I hope that you will stick around, see if this content seems worth your while, and consider subscribing so that then I can say to you, if you aren't new here, welcome back to yet another Friday upload. This time, wanted to break up the kind of same content that we've been having here for the past couple of weekends, and instead of showing you runs for this Friday's video from the North versus South RC Crawling Championship, North versus South Utah RC Crawling Championship, I wanted to kind of give a little bit more of an informational video, throwing it back to some of the earlier days of this channel. One of the first series of videos that I did, I included a video from my first comp where I went over what I thought that you should expect when you're going to a competition, or maybe how to prepare for the competition. And these were pretty typical things that you would find anyone saying if you were going to spend some time outside and in the sun, or just generally speaking, going camping, anything like that. They were just little tips and tricks that I thought would help you out. And a few people enjoyed that video, so I thought that I would make a new revision of that video that is specifically what to expect for 10-gate competitions, what to expect when you show up for a 10-gate. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to give you essentially 9 different points of what to expect when you are headed to a competition, and that competition is specifically a 10-gate competition. I'm going to be basing this off of what I've done for the High Noon Hobby competitions, as well as what we did for the North versus South Utah RC Crawling Championship. Thank you again to West Desert Wheeler, or Logan from West Desert Wheeler, and Luke, or ScumbagRC, Luke from ScumbagRC. Both of those guys put together an awesome crawling competition series here in Utah. And this was just the first year of what I think will become a awesome tradition here for the RC crawling community. At least I hope that it will. I will premise this by saying, this list of 9 different points, that RC crawling competitions are very different. And they stem a broad range of different styles, from Sorka to what's the USRCC. There's all sorts of different competitive rules and different styles of putting on 10-gate competitions. Some are held in retail locations, like what's the Crawl Space, is that what it is, in Colorado? Some are run outside, like the ones that we do here for the North versus South competition series, and it just varies a whole lot. So take all of these notes with a grain of salt, but I hope that these will help you at least a little bit prepare for maybe your first competition, or a competition here in Utah with us. Even maybe run your own competition, which I encourage any of you who are interested in the comp scene but don't think that you have a comp scene around you. You are the comp scene. I had only been in the RC crawling hobby for a short period of time before I started running my own events, and I just did what I wanted to see out of RC crawling competitions. So do that yourself. It doesn't matter if 5 people show up or if 100 people show up. As long as you guys are all having a good time, I think that it's absolutely worth it. All right, so we're painting a picture. We're at the competition. It's a beautiful sunny day. We've showed up early, we've set up our table, and we've got all of our trucks ready and prepped. The first thing that you're typically going to do is signups. When you show up, besides socializing, which is a huge part of any RC event that I have been to, one of the first things that you'll probably have to do is actually sign up for the competition. Usually groups will use score sheets for signups, and they'll either be typically one of 2 styles: either a group score sheet where your name will be written down and they'll just know that you've entered the event, you'll pay your money and you're good to go, or an individual score sheet, which is what we opted to do for the North versus South Utah Crawling Championship, and that is where your name is written on a score sheet when you enter the competition, when you pay your entry fee, and that score sheet is handed to you, and you are in charge of that score sheet for the rest of the day. That means that as you go from course to course, you're going to be handing your score sheet to a judge, and that judge will be filling that score sheet out for you and then handing that score sheet back to you at the end of your run. Remember, it's always a good thing to put that score sheet in a safe place and make sure you keep it safe. Sometimes judges will forget to give your score sheet back to you at the end of a run. It's important that you grab that score sheet and make sure you keep it on you so that so that you know that you are, or so that the hosts of the event know that you are part of the event, because oftentimes the score sheet is essentially your entry ticket to the event. I'm currently working on a system that will digitize this process and essentially allow the judges at the events to use tablets to score competitors, and they will just send in all of the scores digitally to the main score table, and there won't have to be any more score sheets. During the time that I've been doing comps, I have seen way too many giant piles of score sheets blow away, and so I am adamant that by next season, we're all going to be using this digital scoring system just with some cheap tablets, but I have to finish a few things up, and I have to save up a little bit more money so that we can buy like a lot of cheap tablets from a business, cheap used tablets from a business. So if you know someone who has access to like a lot of 10 or 20 tablets, let me know, because I could be interested in purchasing those. They have to be cheap though, real cheap. I'm not looking for anything fancy. I just need to run one app, and it's most likely going to get smashed into a rock. So, I don't need anything fancy. All right, so that was signups. Now, number 2, generally after signups, you're going to hang out for a little while. You're going to enjoy the morning air, and then pretty promptly, you're going to have a driver's meeting. Once everyone is signed up for the event, the next thing to expect is the driver's meeting. Typically, you'll go over the rules for the event during the driver's meeting. You may get described to you the course flow as well. Run-throughs or walkthroughs will happen later, generally speaking. The driver's meeting is just a big, more or less a huddle where any sort of questions can get answered, and oftentimes, at least for our events, we're also describing how judging happens, and that's for the benefit of the competitor so that you can keep your judge accountable. Essentially, you know how it's supposed to be judged as well. If you see them make an error, you can call them out on it, but also so that the judges of the event know what they're supposed to be doing, because oftentimes judges of these events are just volunteers and they don't know what they're supposed to do before it's described to them. So that also often happens at the driver's meeting. All right, pre-competition. We have signed up for the event, we have our score sheet in hand, and we've gone through the driver's meeting so that we know what we're supposed to be looking forward to, and we are ready for it. The next thing to do is to ask for a walkthrough of the course. Now, I will say maybe the next thing up is to line up your truck. That's all dependent on whether or not you want to be early or late, but we're going to talk about that in just a second. First, I want to talk about walkthroughs. If it isn't given during a driver's meeting, a course walkthrough is often still permitted. Make sure to ask a course judge or the event host whether or not they do permit walkthroughs. Oftentimes, pre-running is not permitted, but walkthroughs generally are permitted. If they are, I absolutely recommend that you take advantage of taking a walkthrough through the course. This can give you invaluable information for achieving the best line possible through difficult obstacles, particularly if you don't take a course walkthrough and your competitor does. They might have a real advantage over you when it comes to a certain obstacle that you haven't seen beforehand. So always take a course walkthrough. I think it is always a good idea if you have the option. So then the next point is lining up and waiting. Unfortunately, the bigger the event, the more hurry up and wait there is, typically speaking. This is another reason that I'm working on digitizing the scoring system, because I think it will help the course flow go faster. Typically, we try to set up our courses with course flow to maximize the number of competitors that we can have go through that course per hour, while still maintaining a difficulty of the terrain for the trucks and also an ease of terrain navigation for the drivers and the judges. We want to make sure that you and the judge can safely walk through the course without eating it, although sometimes that's easier said than done, and often we have had gates that are a little bit sketchy to walk near or to, try to get yourself into a position where you could save your truck if you needed to, but we try to avoid this, and we try to make sure that it's as safe as possible for everyone and for your truck to a certain extent as well. What this means, though, is that even if you get in line early, you're still probably looking at 5 to 10, maybe even 15 minutes of waiting. And if you are like me and you're just hanging out at the back of the line, you may even spend over an hour waiting for your run. That's not atypical at a really large event. So take advantage of this time and watch other people run. That's going to be another way for you to get a ton of extra information on how you can run the course in the most efficient, most effective way possible. Oftentimes, watching my competitors has really been the difference between me getting through a gate clean and me having absolutely no idea and taking a wrong approach right at the very start that just gets me into a world of trouble. So take advantage of the hurry up and wait mentality of a competition and use that time to watch your competitors run through, give them some cheers and some chants, but also pay attention to what it is that they're doing so you can use that information to your advantage. Next point is obviously the run, something that we're all familiar with and what we've all come to the competition to do. Remember to stay calm, cool, and collected like a cucumber, but also remember the most important thing while you're doing your run is to have fun. If you're having fun, you're going to drive better, and you're also going to be a winner no matter what happens at the end of your run because you're enjoying yourself, and that's what we're all here to actually do. So just remember, stay cool, stay calm, stay collected, and enjoy yourself for your run. It seriously only lasts a few minutes, but it's what we came to the day-long event to do. So don't blow your 6 minutes of enjoyment on the course. Have a good time with it, regardless of how it goes. All right, so you're done with your run. Now we are going to watch more runs. Okay, so this information may be less useful to you. Remember, oftentimes we have 2 courses to run, so you will finish one course, move your truck into the line for the next course, and then you'll run that one after you get to the front of that line. So you're running 2 separate courses and potentially watching runs for 2 separate courses, which can still be entertaining. But even if you've finished your courses, go ahead and head over to your competitors and give them some, motivation. I know that I feel personally I run better when I've got a couple of people, even just the judge, even if they're giving me a little bit of motivation here and there. But when I have a crowd of people around me and they're all cheering and chanting when I do something cool, or even if they're helping spot me through some difficult spots. I know that at the last Friday video that I did where I didn't do particularly well on course 1, I absolutely would not have made it through gate 5 if I didn't have my fellow competitors next to me spotting me through that gate. I wouldn't have seen the way through it if they hadn't shown it to me. And that made all the difference in getting through that course. And obviously, I wasn't competition for the real top dogs, but it felt really good to have that support next to me, and I really appreciated it. So I hope that you can provide that same thing to your co-competitors, your other people in the event, just as those guys did for me and just as I try to do for everyone that is at the events that I'm at. Okay, so this isn't necessarily something that will happen at every event, but for the North vs. South Utah RC Crawling Championship finale, we did do a top 5. So we didn't do this for any of the qualifying rounds because we didn't really need to, but for the finals, we decided that after all the scores were tallied, we would have 2 completely new, fresh courses on a different portion of the rock setup, and we would have the top 5 competitors from each class run 1 course for each class to see who was the champion of the first year of the North versus South Utah RC Crawling Championship. So I thought that this was really fun. It added a different dynamic to the championship that I hadn't experienced before, but I thought was really cool. It felt more like a real competition with spectators and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, everyone crowded around and cheering or heckling, booing, whatever it might have been. It was mostly cheering. There was a little bit of heckling though, and but it was a great time, and I really enjoyed that. So once you get through the top 5, then you tally up the scores of all 3 runs there for the competitors, and that is how you determined essentially the final winner, or at least how we did it. Again, not something that happens at all competitions. I don't even know how common a top 5 at the end is, a little bit of a shootout at the end is, but I really enjoyed it. That was the first time that I had personally seen it, and I think that I will probably be integrating that into more of my competitions as well. All right, so you made it through everything. It's the end of the day, the sun is setting, and now it's time to figure out who has won. So it's time for the final ceremonies. The final ceremonies for the North versus South started out with we crowned the victors of the North versus South Utah RC Crawling Championship. We gave them their respective trophies and other goodies, and then we went into our raffle. Every one of our qualifying events leading up to this final and then the final itself had a pretty stacked goodie prize table that we just raffled off. And for us, an entry into the competition was an entry into the raffle. So if you competed, you had a chance to win. I personally was pretty stoked to win this little hat. So, you know, wouldn't have gotten an Axial hat if I didn't compete in the North versus South Utah RC Crawling Championship. Gave it away. I wasn't the winner, obviously, but I still had a great time. That's all my points though, guys. I hope that these were useful for you. Hope that you enjoyed this Friday upload. If you made it to the end of the video, go ahead and give this video a like if you found this information useful. I hope that you did. I hope that this either was informative for you if you're trying to start your own comp in terms of a format to use, or if you're just looking for what's going to happen at your first comp or your next comp with us. Maybe you're going to come out to Utah and join us for one of our comps. Now, hopefully you have an idea of what it's going to be like. So, all right, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for checking in. We'll see you on the next one. Enjoy your trailing this weekend, and we'll see you on Sunday. Cheers.